my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
So just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop.
The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave. Come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite.
Now, there's one thing you might have noticed I don't complain about. Politicians.
Governments don't live together, people live together. Governments, you don't always get a fair word or a fair fight. Well, I've come here to give you either one, or get either one from you.
That is totally taken out of context.
Well, not really.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up,
T-minus 1 minute.
live out the true meaning of its creed.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
T-minus 50 seconds.
I am paying for this microphone, Mr. Every dollar released from taxation
T-minus 40 seconds.
that is spent or invested will help create a new job.
Chivalry is dead, and women killed it.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines.
T-minus 20 seconds.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing ground and in the streets.
10, 9,
We shall fight
8,
in the hills.
6,
We shall never surrender!
3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, welcome to the Problem Solver Politics live stream. My name is Cardin. I am your host with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And we're also joined in studio with Brittany the Shadow.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about all kinds of really cool stuff today. First off, please clap. Actually, I'm getting a lot of comments in the chat that says, what is please clap? And you guys are about to be introduced to a very funny cultural phenomenon. Cody, could you tell us what's going on?
Yeah, well, I guess, that was, so what was it? I guess we'll walk it back to the beginning. So famously in 2016, Jeb Bush had a moment that I don't want to say ruined his career as a politician, but it definitely did not help him, where he famously said to a bunch of his supporters, and please clap. I think actually the source I'm going to pull up for you guys right now is literally from CNN. Like they like cut away from like covering a plane crash to play this. So we'll run this real quick, and then we'll talk about why that is relevant today, perhaps. So let me get this ready for you guys. I believe. So here we go. Here's the origins of it, and then we'll get into it and talk a little bit more about it. So here we go.
That we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world.
Ooh, Jeb's looking tough.
Please clap. Please clap.
Okay, so that moment obviously went, because I hadn't seen it, it went pretty viral, I guess you could say, in 2016, and it kind of became, please, I mean, to me, it's one of those things, please clap to me is just so synonymous with Jeb Bush and what happened there. So anyway, the reason why we're talking about this a little bit more is because Pete Buttigieg, unfortunately, might have ran into his own little please clap moment. So I thought it was kind of funny to talk about that. I couldn't find really a reason to do a full video on it, but I just thought it'd be funny to talk about because somebody did an editing the two together, and it is absolutely hilarious. So anyway, I'm going to run this one really quickly. This is Mr. Pete Buttigieg. I want to say, 2 days ago? 2 days ago in Iowa, of all states. Not a great state for this to happen. Here we go.
By having better hands guided by better values on those pulleys and levers of American government. So can I look to you to spread that sense of hope to those that you know? Come on. By having better hands guided by better values.
Man. It's almost like it's almost like it's better to just let it, like, leave it at that than try to make it any better. So the last thing we're going to run through here quick as far as the videos go. Somebody actually did. I hope this was the. So yeah, this is the source of it. So Alex Sears is the person who did this. I have no idea.
Genius of cinematography and editing, right?
I have no
here.
idea who this person is. So if you find out he's some bad guy, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, though, he put this together and it's pretty funny. So let's check this out. Oh, hold on. I gotta mute my other Pete video because it actually is fairly interesting to watch this. Let's play this side by side.
Being better hands guided by better values that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country to get
so can I look
back
to
in
you
the
to spread that sense of hope
creating a more
to
peaceful
those that you know?
world. Please
come on.
I don't know. I just wanted to, like I said, we couldn't find a reason me and Cardin do a 20-minute video on this, but man, it's a rough look, right? Like when you have to, it's always bad. Like it's like a comedian telling people like it's like now you can laugh. Like what's like? There's no spin on that. It just looks like really bad. I don't know. Doesn't speak to the whole campaign. For Jeb, it did. It really was. It never got better for Jeb after that, but I can't imagine it's a good sign for people to judge when he finds himself in a situation like this. I don't know. It looks bad to me.
That's funny. That is really, really funny. So, obviously not as bad as the infamous
Howard Dean. The thing was Howard Dean got like caught up in the moment. Jeb Bush and people are talking to their own supporters, and they're just kind of like, "Come on, guys, do something!" Like I'm giving a speech here. You guys got to react. It's like I said. It's like, please. I think the thing with please clap is too. Please clap. The Jeb version of it. In motion, it doesn't come across as bad, but in print, when you read it as him saying "please clap," like, it comes across. You in my mind, it's like "please clap," and he's like "please clap," and the same thing. It's only the same way. People just goes, "Come on," and people are like, "I guess we clap now." I don't know, man.
So apparently, we have a lot of very concerned viewers here. Deborah Baca, Ted McLean, a bunch of guys in the chat are worried that you have the clap, Cody. So I think we might need to rename the stream once it's done. You didn't like that one? I thought it was funny. I thought it was quite humorous. So anyway, Android 82 brings up a really good point. Jeb is the only political campaign that I remember in my adult life that had an exclamation mark behind his name.
It was. was. It was. You want to just take a few minutes here,
Yeah.
and just for a few minutes, we'll just talk about Jeb 2016.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to go back to remember the beautiful thing that was Jeb Bush's campaign 2016. I mean, it was really, really fun. My favorite moment was when Jeb Bush, like he was so childlike and it was so innocent and beautiful. In the third or fourth debate, when they finally started asking their creative questions, the media did, and they said, okay, Ronald Reagan's name was Eagle, and, Jimmy Carter's name was the Champ, and, Bill Clinton's Secret Service name was whatever, you know what I'm saying? If you are elected president, what is your Secret Service name going to be, right? And remember, he said, oh, the Energizer Bunny, because I've got so much energy, And then everybody kind of laughed like, haha, that was a good groaner, right? And when he saw that people were laughing, he's like, yes, like a little kid, like Tom Steyer, just grinning from ear to ear, like, now I'm on the debate stage. He's like, oh, yeah, they really like me. And then Donald Trump was sitting next to him and goes to give him a low five. And he's like, oh, and he just like hit it like, oh, yeah. Like he was so stoked out of his mind. I think it was literally like the first time he's been perceived as cool in his entire life, and he was absolutely stoked, and it was the cutest thing to watch it in politics, like in the past decade.
I have to be honest. This is the story I forgot about. So like I said, we're bringing back Jeb 2016 for a moment here, because actually I have kind of a funny idea for this now. I didn't start with this, but we should. Okay, who's going to be? I guess you know what? I think I know who the 2020 version of Jeb was. I think I know who that was already. But I want to show you guys this article. This is pretty interesting. New York Times. How Jeb Bush spent $130 million running for president with nothing to show for it. Because those of you guys that don't remember, early on, really the 2015 portion of the 2016 cycle, early on, right? Jeb was viewed as like early on in this primary, everyone's like, who's going to win? And the people are just kind of like, Kamala Harris. Like Jeb Bush was that person in 2016. I think Kamala's like the perfect comp for this. I don't know if Kamala quite spent 130, but same idea. Like early on, when no one actually knew how this cycle was going to play out, it was just kind of like, well, I guess Kamala Harris, right? Like who was it? I think it was CNN. Don't quote me. I don't want to besmirch CNN. God forbid you do that. But somebody had Kamala Harris number one on the power rankings going back to like May of 2019 for the 2019-2020 primary. And it's just hilarious to me. And now Pete Buttigieg, I think he's lasted a little bit too. No, Jeb hung in there a while too. Maybe Pete would be competing with Kamala for that Jeb position of the person who comes in as a front runner with a bunch of money, blows it, gets nowhere, and drops out. I mean, I think Pete actually, in more ways than one, there might be parallels between the Pete and Jeb campaign, right? A little bit of the same. Jeb had some political clout, I guess, in 2015.
Oh, Jeb had so much more. He was freaking governor. Like, do you know how many votes you have to get to be governor of Florida? Pete Buttigieg, weren't you saying that, like, we have more subscribers than he got votes?
Yeah, he was only like 7,000 votes he received when he was running, I think.
So, I mean, really, what has Pete Buttigieg done? What has he done?
And his last name isn't Bush. But still, it is funny to me because it's probably every big primary season has the candidate like the Jeb 2016, where it's like they have this name. I think Kamala Harris for me. Let me know if you guys disagree. I think Kamala Harris is the best person to compare for this because there was early on this sense of like, oh, Kamala Harris is probably going to win. That just evaporated. Like, but by the time he got to the fourth debate, she dropped out. The fifth debate. Jeb, he hung in there for more debates, but there was the sense early on of like, oh, Jeb's going to be the nominee, the Bush dynasty. And then, like, it just went nowhere. And I don't know. I mean, like we said, they're not the same, but having a video, like, having your own please clap moment really is a bad sign during a campaign, is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, it cannot be good to have people already calling the please clap moment. I mean, look at them just lined up side by side. Like, we were talking about the camera angle's the same. It's the same thing. They're doing And Pete's got that classic look on his face, that classic grin he gets when he's like not very happy. When he isn't feeling it, he kind of does this like kind of grin, and he does it right there at the end. So I'm not gonna body language read people to judge. I just have to imagine when you give your speech and you're so upset by the fact that nobody reacted, you try to get the people going. You probably aren't happy. So I don't know.
Yeah. So we got an interesting question here from Abraham Chapa. that I actually, I very much, I kind of resonate with. It says, question, do you think Yang momentum is slowing down because he missed the debate? Question mark. He's missed 2 fundraiser goals since then and is definitely missing the phone banking goal. Can we recover? Okay. Obviously, in his terminology, can we recover? It seems like he must be some kind of super enthusiast or volunteer in the campaign. Do you think Yang momentum is slowing down because he missed the debate? I think all political momentum is slowing down right now because we are post-holidays and impeachment is sucking up all the air in the room. Okay. So that same slowdown, because people just blew a lot of money for Christmas and Hanukkah and so on and so forth, makes it so they're probably a little bit less apt to say, yeah, I'm going to toss $100, not towards my credit card bill, which I put all the presents on, you know what I'm saying? But towards this Yang guy, because I think UBI is a good guy, a good idea. I think anybody that were to predict Andrew Yang getting this far would predict that he might not hit fundraising goals post holidays. Also, let's not forget that he always had very robust and lofty goals for his fundraising. Though he was only a 2 to 3 to 4% candidate, he was hitting Q3 and Q4 markers, rivaling the likes of Joe Biden. And I think actually, doesn't he have more money than Joe Biden? I mean, in Q4, he raised more money than Joe Biden, didn't he?
No, but close.
No, but close. Okay, but either way,
I want to say it was $4.5 million left.
He was raising more money than people that had far Klobuchar. He was clobbering Klobuchar. You know what I'm saying? People that have higher percentage points and accessibility to success in these polls, he was outperforming. So I don't necessarily consider it missing a lofty goal if the end result gets you more. It speaks to that old adage that you got to shoot for the moon so that if you miss, you land amongst the stars, instead of shooting for the stars. So if you miss, you land in the mud. You know what I'm saying? So it seems like he was always shooting for the moon. So I don't necessarily think Yang momentum is slowing. Yang people are still stoked about anything he puts out there. I think the news cycles are slow and the time of year is slow. It's really going to start pumping and gearing up here in what I perceive being about 2 or 3 weeks from now. He has missed 2 fundraiser goals, but that's fine. I mean, everybody's missing fundraiser goals right now, especially the ones that are shooting for the moon like he is. Okay. And definitely missing the phone banking goal. Yeah, because people are going back to work now instead of being on the holidays. Can we recover? Yes. Don't be so nihilist. We are so far out. If you can, at this time, I think in his election, Herman Cain was leading. You know, at this time in Rudy Giuliani's second failed presidential attempt, second or third, I can't remember which one it was. He was leading. There was actually a time, unfortunately, at this time, you know who was leading? Robert F. Kennedy. You know what I'm saying? Before, unfortunately, he was deleted, shall we say, in order to...
Well, but also remember this, that it's like there typically is less people in like the race at this point in the cycle. There generally isn't still like we're going to be going through Iowa and New Hampshire with like 7 people still, right?
Yeah.
I'll show you. Actually, I take that back because Bloomberg's not going to be on the ballot in Iowa or New Hampshire. But these are the 538, the Real Clear Politics projection. A lot of polls that I see around, I don't see make it to this aggregate, so I don't like to say this is like the law of the polls. Simply their one aggregating method. But it is interesting to note one thing, is that in recent era, you have seen a judging by the Real Clear Politics aggregate, there's been a stagnation in the polls for Yang. But I think the biggest thing, by the way, I think part of that is the fact that Bloomberg is surging up and Sanders is surging up in the last little bit. And that's not just here. It's across the board. Bloomberg is having his little road. Sanders is going up in there. However, it is the polls. It's not the actual ballot boxes. And I think, as a lot of people have mentioned here, it really is going to be important. And by the way, Andrew Yang, I think, is... was day 6, day 7 of his bus tour through Iowa. I mean, Andrew Yang is focusing very heavily on the state in Iowa, and New Hampshire he's put a lot of emphasis on as well. He seems to have had more boots on the ground time in Iowa than he has in New Hampshire. Iowa seems to be really what's gotten his focus more. I've seen him do more more rallies, more speeches. A little bit in South Carolina as well. And New Hampshire, he still goes, but Iowa's been a main focus. He needs to perform there. And I think we're at the point where Andrew Yang has done everything he could possibly do up until the day of the first votes being cast to convince people that he can win, and these are his positions, right? Like, I think we have seen, aside from the results coming in, we've seen where the pollsters will project him at, and it's going to be about, say, 3 to 8 or 9. That seems to be where he's going to go in these polls, jumping between there. But I think there's still so many people who are not in Iowa, are not in New Hampshire, and are waiting to see what happens. And it wouldn't take a huge thing. I think one or two surprise delegates in Iowa securing a spot in that stage in New Hampshire, that really could be it. That really could be what he would need to kind of really give that campaign a kickstart. But yeah, I think we've just, and I talked about this in the video yesterday. It's really similar to what's going to happen over the next few days with like the Super Bowl. You just get this fatigue of like, this event is coming. Everyone's hyped it up. Everyone's talking it up. It's like at a certain point, like you think, these sports again, it's like you've gone over all the plays, you've ran through the game plan. It's like, we just want to play the game. And I think that is where a lot of people are sitting and waiting, looking for Andrew Yang. Like a lot of people we kind of just want to see what happens now in Iowa and New Hampshire. Because it is definitely going to decide his campaign. I mean, a lot of campaigns like Andrew Yang's, they got the legitimacy by surprising people in Iowa. I mean, it's like, that isn't like some like secret for running elections. Like, you go to Iowa, you surprise people in the caucuses, and you can make a big noise with it. And I think that is what we're seeing. Like I said, stagnation is one thing. Also, keep in mind, a lot of people went from average donors to max donors in the last 2 months. So like, they literally can't donate any more money. That's also what's happening. And I think there was people, like I said, they're just waiting to see. It's like I said, people feel like they've done the groundwork. They've gone over everything. They've done everything.
Well, we met guys in Vegas.
What's going to happen on the actual day of the vote now? I think that's what everyone's waiting on.
Yeah, we met a couple of really staunch volunteers in Vegas that said, like, I'm saving my last $700 for when I feel the Yang campaign really, really needs it, because I've tracked how much I've given and I can't give more.
Yeah. All right, we have a couple super chats.
Ooh, let's hit it.
First one is from Truong Ho. He said, it's the time of year. Every nonprofit I work with, January to April is hardest to get donations.
Yeah.
Holidays and taxes probably, right?
Yeah, that's true. Just like what I said before. There's another one?
Yeah, there's another one from Joshua Slocum.
Hit it.
He said, what do you think Yang will pull in Iowa?
Interesting. Well, I guess I kind of touched on that my little bit, so I'm going to go back to Card Probably's longer answer. I think he could sneak a few delegates away there. He'll make some noise, surprise people at the caucus, come away with a few delegates. Because I'm pretty sure it's kind of how the system works there. We did a video talking about the caucuses, and it is weird. Like, it isn't like people just go to the ballot box, vote, Andrew Yang polls at 15% or whatever. But I do think of the, oh my God, I forgot what the actual number is, but I think of the couple dozen delegates up for grabs, Andrew Yang, if he can come away with a couple of them, which is weird to think. It's like a couple really passionate communities, as far as I've understand the system, could be enough to really start surprising people. Because one, like I said, that secures the debate stage spot. And we did a video talking about the qualifications for the upcoming debate. I kind of said, like, the polls shouldn't matter at this point to Andrew Yang anymore. He better get at least one delegate in Iowa, because like,
it's almost like if one of these phone-in delegates, because they've got 14 at-large delegates, they can just choose. And you can't tell me of 14 in-the-know Democrats, because basically to be a delegate, you're basically a party player, okay? And you can't tell me there's a smattering of 14 Democrats chosen at any kind of modicum of random, you know what I'm saying? Or with any diversity at all in which there's not a delegate. Okay, so just from the at-large people, there's going to be a delegate for sure. And then you can't tell me that in one of these areas, there's not a compounded concentration of dedicated Yang people that when they're all cheering because we've got the really cool old school system in the Iowa, delegations where you literally have to cheer your guy, convince other people to come to your camp, that in that old school House of Commons way of doing things, that there's not going to be a more enthusiastic, better looking, cooler, faster, stronger, harder Yang gang that's not going to convince, people to join them and walk away with the delegate. So you have to walk away with a delegate, or you have to hit the polling threshold. I actually think it's going to be easier for him to walk away with delegates than it will be actually to hit the polling threshold.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's still, I think as of today, it's 2 or 4 polls required. But he's at 8%. I don't think that one counted. I could be wrong, though. I haven't looked at one yet. It just came out a couple hours ago. It had been announced earlier this afternoon, but it was announced as will be released in 3.5 hours. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll wait till it's released. Like, I don't know. It's weird to me to have someone just say, here's the result of the poll that isn't out yet. It's like, well, so I guess we'll wait for it to. I don't know. It's kind of it's hard to get a scoop on something like that where the numbers come out. But anyway, I getting back to just the idea of Iowa, because if you want to talk about polling or more traditional metrics, right, as far as percentages go, I believe New Hampshire is a fairly traditional primary vote.
Yes.
So we want to talk about New Hampshire.
Well, hold on. You can't say it's traditional in the sense they allow you to start at midnight, and they're one of the first states to actually start doing it.
No, I mean, the idea being that like you go to a
traditional
ballot box,
in the methodology.
Yeah, you go to a ballot box return because let's look at that now. Because here's this is the Real Clear Politics aggregate. It's not the word of God. This is just what they have. So if we want to look at where he's polling at in New Hampshire on average right now, Andrew Yang is currently polling at about 4.4% on average in New Hampshire. Now, he also polls, like I said, a lot of his good polls seem to get weighted out or thrown out with these Real Clear aggregates, which is important to keep in mind here. But another thing is, though, that is also 4.4 is an increase over his national polling, which I do think that particular idea, what the percentage difference is, I'm not 100% sure of. But yes, he is polling very well in New Hampshire, probably more favorably than he is nationally. And then we see a lot of national polls come out with him between, I mean, the crazy thing is he's still between 3 and 8. I mean, I've seen 3. I think today he polled between 3 and 8 in like 4 polls released over the last maybe 48 hours. So there's still the variance there. But here's a big thing to keep in mind in New Hampshire, right? This is a trend. Again, maybe the numbers are different. This trend is real. Warren and Biden have really, really taken a hit in that state. And it is true. It really is. It looks like Bernie's getting ready to, because, you know, Bernie Sanders, the Northeast is definitely an area people are very familiar with him at, right? That's his kind of old stomping ground, so to speak. I don't think specifically New Hampshire, right? But that part of the country. So I don't know if he's always been popular there, but I know he has a lot of recognition there. And it seems like the Joe Biden being Joe Biden is going to catch up to him. I've always kind of thought when election day came, maybe Joe Biden's the Jeb Bush of this election cycle, where everyone just assumes Joe Biden's going to win, and then we have the first polls come in, and Joe Biden's like 8% in New Hampshire. It's like, why did we think Joe Biden was going to win this? But it is going to be interesting for Andrew Yang in New Hampshire in the voting day. Wouldn't be surprised to see him at double digits. It's one of those things where it's kind of tough to predict this stuff. Like, I wouldn't be shocked to see him at 4% or 12%. In New Hampshire. I really wouldn't.
Okay.
Iowa is a little bit different because they have their different system of awarding delegates, but I really wouldn't be surprised to see that spread either way. It really is. It's getting tough, man. It's down to the wire now. Like, the votes are coming up in what? From today, not quite 2 weeks, around 2 weeks, right?
Okay.
Is it? Forgot exactly what day it is. That was early February. But about 2 weeks, we're actually going to be voting in this stuff. And we're really going to start finding out a lot about everything. Because the polls have been... I refuse to believe... And this New Hampshire data, I think, is really interesting. Because I think it's what we're kind of seeing as well. I refuse to believe that there legitimately is 4 frontrunners now. It doesn't make any sense to me. That legitimately, between the big 4 of Sanders, Biden, Buttigieg, Warren, people are so divided and split. They're gonna be within a few points of each other at 15-20% each. I just don't think that's the reality. So I think a couple of these candidates are being inflated, which of course means that a couple other candidates potentially. I mean, votes are being moved where they might not go. Is a better way of putting it. Because there's a chance of saying a lot of these people that are polled as Warren supporters might just vote. I guess, you know what? I'm trying to think now. Would Warren supporters vote for anyone else? They said Bernie Sanders is an awful misogynist, and I almost said out loud Elizabeth Warren supporters to vote for Joe Biden.
They'd be stuck in the same.
They'd be stuck for Joe Biden.
They'd be stuck in the exact same situation that Bernie Sanders himself was stuck in 2016, where he'd spent so much time ripping on Hillary Clinton as that example of the wealthy ruling class in America that besmirches the working man. You know, and then all of a sudden he's caught in a situation where he has to endorse her. And that was why a lot of people switched and ended up voting for Trump, because they said, look, your endorsement, man, that really bothered a lot of people. And a lot of people lost respect for him, whatever. I'm not saying whether his choice was good or bad for his campaign, but it was definitely a moment that drew a line in the sand amongst his own constituency. And that was a line in the sand that was developed because he spent so much time ripping on the corporatists and the millionaires and the billionaires and the traditional way of doing business, when the woman that was going to get coronated as the DNC appointee was all of those things. That was a train wreck he saw coming. And a line in the sand he saw getting drawn when he first declared his candidacy. And I think he had to have been okay with it. And I actually would have liked it more if he just would have said, I'm not endorsing her, I'm just not endorsing anybody. I think more people naturally would have just actually gravitated towards Clinton than maybe would have felt besmirched in order to go to Trump. So anyway, when you look at this, I think Warren has kind of painted herself into a similar corner. You know, she spent so much time dogging on the other most progressive candidate and on all the other candidates, even on Pete Buttigieg and, well, gosh, on everybody on the stage, okay, that now when she loses, who has she not dogged on? She even had a kerfuffle with Andrew Yang when she said, oh, okay, well, I don't know if you're right or if you're wrong. I'd like to see the data. He's like, I got the data. Like, look at the hat. You know what I'm saying? So she even had a slight run-in with Andrew Yang that shows, I feel like she's painted herself in the same into the same corner.
Okay, well, I mean, this is, again, talking about polls and what to expect. This is, I do think Yang is trending higher in New Hampshire than he is nationally. And I do think Yang pulling at about 8% nationally sounds about right to me. Again, it's so hard. Because if I want to, I could just start picking polls from today and say, here's Yang at 3, here's Yang at 5. Like, which one is the one to decide, right? But this is really interesting, is this Emerson polling 1. The reason why I like looking at the Emerson polls, Emerson tends to favor Yang, but not exclusively. We've seen Yang have some bad Emerson polls. So they seem to just have a methodology that favors him for the most part, but it's not going to like make up for bad data sets for him, right? 8% for Yang is one thing, but also think about 5% out of third place. I mean, he's within one of these people dropping out. By the way, LOL Amy Klobuchar. I wonder how that's going to age, you know? Because think about it. I'm sure we both had a bunch of takes that have aged very poorly. It's the nature of having takes on anything, really. But man, New York Times endorsing Amy Klobuchar. I think that's going to be one of those ones we look back on just as like, why? What were they thinking? Why did they endorse Amy Klobuchar? Like, I mean, again, this is one Emerson poll. I could probably pull a poll today where Amy Klobuchar was 6 points ahead of Andrew Yang, right? But I mean, you look at her; she's polling at 4% in this particular poll, and it's not like she's normally at double digits either. It's like she basically is around there, 4 to 5% across the board. I mean, she's getting owned by Michael Bloomberg, who, by the way, actually, you can sleep on Michael Bloomberg. He's not going to make any noise, but he is having a very non-traditional run, which is going to be interesting to follow. Was that a way to? He isn't doing the debates because he isn't taking donations, and he isn't going to he's not even showing up on like 4 ballots. Like, it's a pretty non-traditional way to run for president, or run for the Democratic nomination for president. But I don't know. Maybe it'll work for him. Okay. It is really weird to see Bloomberg. We talked about Jeb Bush spent $130 million, nothing to show for it. If Michael Bloomberg just like flares out, he might have spent like $300 million with nothing to show for it by the end.
Oh yeah, and by the way, talk about bad ROI. You know what I'm saying? Talk about bad ROI. You see that headline with Jeb Bush saying he spent $130 million without anything to show for it, and that little knife in the back, that little slow jab. Imagine what the progressive kids over at Slate and BuzzFeed and HuffPo are going to be writing about Michael Bloomberg after his $300 million attempt. Anyway, we got a couple of comments here. AMV Original says, you guys are a channel all about Yang, but also very honest about all political happenings. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you. Thank you very much. And also, oh, dang it. It just went by. I missed it. There was a really, really good question. Oh, yeah, I remember. People are asking about the 8% Emerson poll still.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
And, yeah, I actually like that they've introduced this delegate thing. I actually like that they've introduced the delegate thing. Because to me, it's another avenue for qualification. and I think there needs to be as many avenues as possible. So anyway,
also, I mean, it's, if we're gonna talk about recent polls that dropped today, because several that dropped today, might as well mention this, I guess. The Chegg College poll, which is nice. The Chegg College poll came out, and Andrew Yang was at 12%, which he always does well in this because Andrew Yang does well with young people. You'll notice. Do you think Bernie Sanders polls well with young people? Like, jeez, man, 43. It's crazy.
Oh.
It's like an 8-person field. And Bernie Sanders just continues to poll very well. I would say Elizabeth Warren polling at 21% while very prominently attempting to defend her position of forgiving student loans. That's rough, man. Like, forgiving student loans, like one of your main platforms, and 1 in 5 college students want to vote for you for president. Like, I mean, I guess Bernie's doing it too, so she's fighting for Bernie. But I'm just saying, it's like that should be the wheelhouse of somebody who's using alleviating student, or kind of forgiving student loans as a big policy point. You think college students would love her, but I mean, again, we can clown on Warren all day, every day if we want. But I want to just go through look at the polls today because this one's really interesting.
Well, look, in all of these polls, Klobuchar is 3%. In the next one, she's 4%. In the next one, she's 3%.
Yeah, she did very well. This one's interesting.
And
New
she's
Hampshire.
the one that walked out with the New York Times endorsement.
Yeah, that's my point exactly.
I mean,
it's gonna look really stupid.
If there is any perfect juxtaposition of what the establishment media / DNC unholy alliance wants versus what the people wants, it's the fact that Klobuchar can't pull above 6% in any of these freaking polls, yet she's walking away with the endorsement of the supposed paper of record.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I think it's gonna be one. It's like when, like I said, there's Twitter accounts like cold sports takes, and you just read them like 4 years later and just go like, wow, that guy. No, these people, I know it happens, man. But it's goofy to me that the New York Times, like, they really couldn't just endorse Elizabeth Warren. They were so afraid of missing out on this Amy Klobuchar surprise. Like, we got to endorse Amy too. But check this out. This is the poll I have on the screen right now. It's been up for the last minute or so. Is New Hampshire. And again, this gets back to what we're talking about, these early states. You look at New Hampshire, and it really is like, by the way, Klobuchar is above Yang in New Hampshire. I mean, 6% in this poll. Worth mentioning, right? Gabbard, by the way, who... Tulsi Gabbard has essentially been living in New Hampshire for the past 3 or 4 months. It's no surprise this is the strongest state's New Hampshire. But don't rule out a surprising polling day for Tulsi Gabbard at the polls. Especially, it's going to depend a lot on how quick to get these votes over with. Because someone who's been pretty on board with what Tulsi Gabbard's been doing, even I'll admit the antics are starting to get a bit much. I get you hate Hillary. I know Hillary hates you. At a certain point, it's like, can you guys just, take it outside or something? Like, really, do we all have to keep hearing about this every day? I know you guys don't like each other, but anyway, the reason I wanted to bring this up was, you'll notice in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders is definitely, like, the trends you saw on Real Clear. I would say, yes, that's kind of what we're seeing in every poll. But the other thing is, there really is that giant cluster of Buttigieg, Biden, Warren, and then you get to that second tier of Klobuchar, Gabbard, and Yang. There is room for stuff to go a little weird in New Hampshire. Not as much though. I think Andrew Yang might have to surprise people by sneaking a few delegates more so than surprise people by getting 17% in New Hampshire at this point. Just part of how the field being so crowded. Part of, like I said, I wonder if Tulsi Gabbard hasn't been campaigning as aggressively in New Hampshire, if Andrew Yang might be pulling it closer to 7 or 8%. I wonder how much because I definitely think Tulsi and Yang do have a big overlap. So I do wonder if Tulsi wasn't so aggressive in the state, which is it's her most aggressive state by far, if we would see perhaps Yang a couple points ahead of that. And I wonder if then maybe the Tulsi shtick does start to wear a little thin by election day. It starts to kind of wear on people the fact that, they're not going to let her win at all. Maybe some of those votes go elsewhere. I'm not even saying Yang, but just elsewhere, right? The Tulsi vote might be more up for grabs. But at the same time, I feel like the Tulsi supporters probably would do a principal vote for Tulsi anyway and say, I don't care if she has any chance. I just want to stick it to the DNC and vote for Tulsi. So I could see that also being the case.
So we got 2 questions here. 2 questions. Hit it.
The super chat one?
Yep.
From the Taste of Vinegar, he said, what do you plan to do after the election?
Oh.
Honestly, just
what we're doing now, covering...
Just keep covering whatever obviously, once the primary ends, it'll shift our coverage, because our coverage has primarily been our coverage. We've just focused on the 2020 primary because it was such a crazy primary. So once the primary ends, we'll probably focus a little bit more on the general, depending on what it is, right? If it ends up being, God forbid, Hillary, Trump too, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I I might be less interested in that one, but for the most part, probably cover that a little bit more. It's kind of my plan. I don't know about Cardin if you have any different plans, but like I said, right now it's kind of like as long as the primary is going, that's really our area of focus because it's just been so weird and it's kind of like it's kind of like when you get to the last couple of episodes of like a TV season you've been watching for a while, and you're like, man, once the season ends, like all the knowledge I have of the show is just kind of like. It's like that's not a big like knowing all the deep law. It doesn't matter. Like it's like once this vote's over and the Democrats have nominated their candidate for the 2020 general election for president, it'll be like neat stories, but all of it goes out the window. It is kind of an interesting way, but
we got some super chats.
Another super chat from Christian
Piete.
I
don't know.
Cardin. Oh, this one's just for Cardin.
Okay.
Biden Clinton ticket or vote Trump.
Oh, Trump. Over Biden/Clinton?
This is why I love you.
Oh my gosh, Biden/Clinton. With the Burisma scandals, those are the only two people that have actually had entire books written on their corruption. You know what I'm saying? Like literally right now, Hunter Biden is staying in a $12,000 to $13,000 a month rental in Los Angeles, while the mother of his child he sired, you know what I'm saying, is like begging for paternity. I mean, it's just brutal. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So what's the next one? Hit me with the next one.
Okay, the next one is from Kristen Snell. She said, on a percentage scale of 0 to 100%, how sure are you two that Yang will get a delegate in Iowa? And if he doesn't, but does well in New Hampshire, is there still hope?
Oh, yeah.
There's definitely, always hope, right? As far as percentage-wise, it's really hard to put it in a percentage. I would definitely say like 75, 80% that he gets one. Okay. I don't want to go to 100 just because, 100, but I would say better than not that he gets one. And the big reason why is this, because I kind of believe in Andrew Yang, I believe in what he's doing, and I believe in his campaign. And I will admit, a large part of that comes from, it's my bias here. I believe in the Andrew Yang campaign. And I believe that what they've been doing, the groundwork, like I said, you've seen the people doing the Yang Month stuff, bunch of supporters there, a bunch of volunteers. I think that's going to bear out to, I just believe in anything. You do enough good work long enough, it pays off. And I think he's done enough good work in Iowa long enough for it to pay off with, because here's the thing too, one delegate isn't like, oh man, Andrew Yang's a front runner. You know what I mean? Like even that's still a kind of modest victory, but I do believe at least one, like 75, 80% chance. It's with politics, you never know. Who knows what happens, especially because they don't have a traditional primary. They do the caucus thing, but I would say I'm pretty confident.
Okay, I'd say there's a 95% chance.
Wow.
That he's going to get a delegate. There's a 95% chance that he's going to get a delegate, all right? And there's a lot of questions here about, what if he doesn't win Iowa and this and that? Okay. Iowa is known as a very successful predictor, much more amongst Democrats than Republicans, actually. I mean, there's been a lot more Republicans that have not won Iowa's primaries that have gone on to be their party's nominee. Okay? There's a lot more Republicans that have done that. Amongst the Democrats, it's a little bit more of a bellwether. But it's only been a bellwether like this. I'm actually going to send you an interesting article on this that I read that I bookmarked, Cody. Let me see if I can get it to you, over to you on Discord fast enough. It's a much better predictor amongst Democrats than it is amongst Republicans. And it's really only been a good predictor over the past 20 years. It's only been a good predictor over the past 20 years. So that means since I've been able to vote, it's only been a good predictor. So a lot of people here, especially those that are even younger than me, are thinking, oh no, this is the decision. No, what else has happened over the past 20 years? Basically the refinement of the media industrial complex, which is absolutely cracking at the seams, and that Donald Trump proved, is about to go away. And if it's not this election, it's going to be the next, where we start seeing drastic changes into what is business as usual in American politics.
It's also really interesting, that stat, though, the fact that you're more likely to win the nomination, but less likely to win the presidency. I have to imagine that just comes from there being so few presidential elections that it's just quirky. The number.
Yeah, and you have to realize there's also, you have to calculate in the power of the incumbency. So if you're going to re-elect a president who's already sitting in office, it's difficult to say that, me, the guy that's not been president, is more qualified to be the president over the guy who's currently the
I think
president.
the bigger thing is when you're the larger thing is when you're running as an incumbent, you don't really have to go and win the caucus. You know what I mean? Like I think that.
Yeah. So repeat the question, Brittany. What was the other half of the question?
Okay, let me scroll up. It's been a while.
It's been a while there.
If he doesn't get a delegate in Iowa, but does well in New Hampshire, is there still hope?
Oh, goodness gracious, absolutely. Goodness gracious, absolutely. If Andrew Yang has proved anything, he's a precedent setter. Okay, he's proved that an outsider still can penetrate into the system. He's proved that you can defeat through sheer Yang Gang power, okay, a very dishonest media. He has gone head to head with some very big players. Now, granted, he did buckle against MSNBC, and I will hold him to that. You know what I'm saying?
I think he regrets it now with how I've been treating him.
Yeah, exactly. I think he regrets it now. He should have listened to our sage wisdom and advice. But anyway,
take his own advice. He was dead on. He started off at a great. He had it right the first time. I don't know why I came. Anyway, let's relitigate this. I apologize.
Yeah. So no, it's a very good point. Take your own advice. In fact, one of the biggest investors at Wells Fargo is one of my friend's older brothers, and he said something very interesting. I asked him because he's part of an investment fund that you have to have at least 10 million in order to participate in. And it's really only for the ultra wealthy, or else they give you to one of the lower funds that just has basic standardized 401ks and whatnot. So anyway, while talking to him one day, I said, "Hey, so what is the best thing to invest in?" And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, "Yourself. Invest in things you like and always invest in yourself first. If you have a good business idea, if you have a passion that you want to take into a patent that can become a viable business model, don't be stupid about it. Don't throw yourself at this thing irresponsibly, but always invest in yourself first and then in things that you like. Because if you like it, then other people most likely will like it. Don't invest in what other people tell you to do." You know what I'm saying? So anyway, is there hope? Yeah, just Google right now a couple of these sentences. Presidents who won the general election without winning the Iowa caucus. And you will see an absolute smattering of upheavals and electoral underdogs that have won. I mean, you look at the data of how well John Kerry was doing in the beginning, and then how he barely eked out an existence in his elections. You look at the success of candidates as recent as the 70s and 80s, which culturally we're not as far from as we'd like to admit. Okay. Iowa has only been an effective predictor over really the past 20 years. And that's mostly because broadcast media ran the show, and the unholy alliance between broadcast media and the DNC was so strong. But now that strength has been weakened and that unholy alliance has been somewhat corrupted and exposed, other things, like, for example, I would believe that pretty soon we're going to have data similar to the data we had in the 90s and the early 2000s, where basically America never went to war against a McDonald's. There was actually like a 30-year period, and I don't think it was until we actually had a drone strike in like Qatar or something like that, where there's technically a McDonald's in the airport there or something, that we actually had never gone to war with a country that had allowed us to have a McDonald's on their soil. You know what I'm saying?
So McDonald's is kind of like instead of coming to your country and planting an American flag, that's too obvious. We're just gonna come to your country. We're gonna plant a McDonald's. It's like a sign of dominance.
Well, and it would just show that it's better for the country just to chill out, not hate us and trade with us. It's better for both countries than for you to go to war with us. I bet you pretty soon, within the next 5 to 10 years, there will be data in which scientists go back and realize, wow, if you showed up on Joe Rogan 6 months before the general election, that was a better predictor of your success than if you won the Iowa caucuses or polled higher in Iowa. I think you will see a drastic change towards new media predicting success and social media success predicting electoral success than you will off of old broadcast media and old polling data.
But be careful with that, because I do believe that's always true in everything for one simple reason.
What?
How many major newspapers are there? And how many of them more or less are kind of in line with each other when how they think and see things, right? When you go to like social media and just the different parts of the internet and smaller publications, you're getting to hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands of takes and perspectives, and yeah, you're gonna find the ones that are right. Nobody talks about the ones that were wrong. It's like, do you know how much digging you have to do to find bad NFL draft predictions? No one talks about them anymore. You have to really look them up and like find old archived articles because no one cares anymore. When like I said, it's weird. It's kind of the way like the primary to the election. You know, like I said, the Super Bowl is the NFL game with 2 weeks ahead of it. It's basically the only game with like a 2 week run up like that. I guess the first game of the season you can kind of say, but no games, just 2 weeks and then the game. And famously they do a full media week. So starting from Monday to Sunday, people are doing questions. And by the time you get to Friday, like Friday of this next week, people are just gonna be like, "Oh my God, I am so tired of the stupid thing. Can we just have the game now?" I think that's kind of the data problem right now. Is we're so tired of the stupid. We've talked this to death. Can we just please have the vote?
Yeah. Okay, couple super chats. First off, Kristen Snell said, "Thank you for answering my question so honestly and logically. I appreciate all you guys do. Love PSP and Yang."
Whoop, whoop. Thank you, Kristen.
Okay, and then our next one, Cody. I think you should answer this one from Chad Davis. When do you think John Delaney will drop out?
Oh.
Never. No, I think, like I said, John Delaney was like put on this earth to teach us all a lesson, which is that if you believe in yourself long enough,
anything can happen.
Well, not anything can happen. You still won't be like elected president or anything. But hey, if you hang in the race, you know what? I'll show you. I'll show you a little. If you hang in a race long enough, when people are talking about political polls, they'll mention, because guess what? I got a 0% in this poll, but they didn't put me in the list. John Delaney got a 0% in the poll, and they put his name on the list. So that's what it means John Delaney is still running, and I think he remembers that, you know? Because technically, me and John Delaney are polling dead even in New Hampshire right now. If you guys want to put the word in the street to write me in New Hampshire, you know what? We should pick somebody, and we should launch a campaign. And it's not as a slight to John Delaney. It's just as a, it might be, I don't know. But we should do a write-in campaign and see if we can like Harambe John Delaney, and we can get. I don't mean shoot him. I mean like get it so like the write-in candidate of like I don't know, Ben Stiller, just a name. You write someone in, and he goes above John Delaney.
You're a better looking Ben Stiller, dog. You're a better looking Ben Stiller. I think it should be you. Somebody here said Cardin/Cody 2028. I'm totally for that. And then
I will literally never run for office.
Well, look, I'll video conference you in from your Xbox.
Cody, never say never.
So then there was also an interesting question here. Well, first off, the chat's blowing up. Supposedly, Andrew Yang has passed his $1 million goal. So even in the process of this live stream, we have to amend an earlier comment in which we said Andrew Yang has missed 2 fundraising goals. If he hit it today, I do believe the second one technically is not missed. It's just another one of his goals that ended up happening last minute, similar to the one that was in November that he ended up getting last minute, right?
As of last refresh, I have it at 997,556. I'll throw it up on the screen. So he's not quite there yet, but it is a good sign. And also keep in mind, this is in line with what happened with the last one. The last time they did one of these, there was a late surge early that got him close. Now, they're going to get... 3 hours away. Oh, never mind. Last refresh, she's now over at $1,004,478. So someone asked earlier, is the momentum slowing down? Like I said, I don't think it's momentum. I think it's just people are max donors, one, and the holidays just happened, and tax season's coming up, and people aren't necessarily dying to spend money right now. So that being said, though, we gave every reason, you can call them excuses even in the book for why he might miss this. He still didn't miss it with a couple hours to spare. So that's pretty good, man. That is a positive sign as well. We were talking about some good stuff for Yang. It's funny though. I can definitely get this sense I'm digging around, doing my readings. Reading the articles. I'm just not seeing the forever candidate. Like, honestly, it feels like every 2020 Democrat is stagnated at this point. They really have. I mean, Joe Biden's kind of stagnated. Bernie's kind of rising a bit, but it's mostly just because he's under constant siege, so people feel the need to defend him. It's the same thing the media accidentally did with Donald Trump. It's just that instinct people have. If they don't see what you're saying, they'll just feel the need to defend this person being unfairly slandered, right? Because I'm no Bernie Sanders supporter, but when I see him just being unfairly slammed all the time, I kind of feel like, well, dang, that's not right. It sucks for him. So I think that's part of what we're seeing with Bernie. But like I said, everyone's struggling to raise money, I have to imagine. Everyone's struggling to kind of remake it's kind of hard to keep remaking your case for 7, 8, 9 months, but I could see some definite big surprises from Yang on the way. Because like I said, I think he's going to surprise some people coming away with at least one, probably a few delegates in Iowa. One, because of how the caucus system works. Two, because of just what he's been doing there. And then I also think he's going to poll closer to double digits than not in New Hampshire. And it's really going to put him in a good spot heading into Super Tuesday. Because I think there's been some recent polls that have disputed that. But I do believe Andrew Yang is going to perform fairly well in California as well. And a couple of these big metropolitan states. He seems to do well there. So.
Yeah, so it's interesting. In the chat, a couple of comments here. First off, several people mentioned that they've already reached the max donation to Andrew Yang. So a lot of what you said was true. Also, much earlier, it was one of the things I was remembering, but I completely forgot about it. Much earlier in the chat, there was somebody who actually said, you know what? I've donated 2 or 3 times to Andrew Yang, but I just haven't donated in 2 or 3 months. Because I keep getting the same text messages and the same calls over and over again to the point of annoyance, even though I like Andrew Yang. So maybe they just need to change their script. I definitely think that's true. That constant fundraising, though it may be cyclical and maybe organic, just like the breathing patterns of an animal to the general public, it's not to the candidates. Every day they're trying to climb upwards in a perfect linear fashion, right? So right now we're in the bottom of one of these troughs where people have already spent a lot of money because they had Christmas and they also are a little bit exhausted from the holidays. And maybe they're not tuning in politically because there hasn't been something that instigated it, such as a debate or a large political happening, or because maybe all of their political bandwidth is being taken up by, guess what? Impeachment. Then boom, something's going to happen. And all of a sudden there's going to be a big surge again. So a lot of people here, regardless of who you're a fan of, I think don't be a fair weather fan. You know what I'm saying? There's been people that are much larger underdogs that have come from further behind, and this is where experience kicks in. You know, that youthful fervor is great, but it oftentimes loses faith quickly because it has no experience to lean on. Whereas I have seen people in crazier, more dire situations. Actually, Abraham Lincoln was one of them, you know, that have come back from much bigger beefs. So anyway, not much bigger beefs, much bigger deficits. Man, people cannot get rid of this 8%, man. They're loving this. Like, I've seen like 50
really big, but hold on.
Chat comments about 8%.
I was going through Instagram. I'm trying to find this Instagram live stream with Andrew Yang. I don't like Instagram. I don't use it. I'll admit I'm kind of novice to it. But
yeah,
TNH, Total Nonstop Hogan, put this up on Instagram, and I wanted to show this and said, what you gonna do when the Yang gang runs wild on you, brother? Hulk Hogan, Andrew Yang. So that's on Instagram for some reason. I don't know why. I was just looking for Andrew Yang on his the Andrew Yang live stream, and we got this instead. So yeah, it's a good question. What are you gonna do when the Yang gang runs wild on you, brother? Andrew Yang started signing all of his tweets AY, the way that it's one of the weird things Hulk Hogan does. He signs all of his tweets HH. He just puts like HH at the end.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan, right? I don't know.
Either that or else.
Oh, speaking of
hefty hippopotamus.
Yeah, or a couple other things, right? Anyway, moving on. Andrew Yang, the Yang 2020 campaign actually even Instagrammed out and tweeted out. What do you even call it? Grammed? He grammed it? I don't know. Their own thing of that. And it is pretty interesting looking at the graphic that way because you really do see, like I said, he's basically creeping up on that back, like getting to where he probably is going to wants to be heading into Super Tuesday, which is just behind the front runners, but ahead of everyone else. And I do think he's going to put Buttigieg and Klobuchar a little bit in his dust. We started this off talking about Pete Buttigieg's please clap moment. I think that's going to continue to hold him back a little bit. Not that moment, but just that energy. The fact that like he has to tell his audiences to applaud for him because there's just not he don't have it. You know what I mean? So I see him falling. Emerson, again, has been pretty reliable as a poll, but this is just one poll. I can show you, I believe, a national poll with Yang at 3 or 4% that came out today as well. So always keep that in mind. There's a lot of polls that come out. Just not everyone gets talked about the same, but a lot come out. However, Emerson's very respectable. They tend to be right or closer to right. And I do kind of feel like this is what we're seeing. So I know we've kind of spent a lot of time talking about it, but it is another good
well, we're also going to have to just be getting data from his picture feed on Instagram because unfortunately Instagram is one of those very frustrating platforms where you can't do copy and paste. You can't do anything from the actual desktop. It's meant to be operated from a mobile. And one of the things you can't do is access IGTV, and you also can't access any of their stories. And that's where all of the live streams come from is if you click on their stories, because I'm super hip and into Instagram like that. You know what I'm saying?
Who taught you?
My wife, Brittany the Shadow, taught me.
Yep.
So you actually have to be viewing it from a mobile phone. I mean, I don't know. You want me to pull it up on a mobile, Cody? We could stick it in front of my camera right here.
No, it's just there's got to be a workaround for that. And by the way, people asking, Emerson is not a qualifying poll for some reason. I think it's because Emerson does tend to be pretty accurate. The DNC does not want to use them as one of their pollsters for. I think there's
actually there is a workaround. I could do it on my phone through the fourth HDMI.
Hey, if you can then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let me pull it up. Talk for a second. Yeah, you're right.
That's smart. Hey,
when we were doing my son's video game channel.
We got some
Boom.
gadgets.
Carden, you're so techie now.
Holla, holla, holla.
So we'll see if we can pull that up. That'd actually be really interesting.
Is this still plugged in? Or is it that corner camera?
Yeah, it probably isn't plugged in anymore.
Okay, cool. I'll plug it in, dog. We're going to have this up in like 30 seconds, baby.
So anyway, in the meantime, I will say it is interesting. Like, I will say it's good that Andrew Yang hit, and then I wonder where is he? I wonder where the Yang is on the. We'll watch together. Anticipation's killing me. Where is he in the dials? Is he at 800,000 yet? No. Oh, that is definitely okay. 328 with about a day to go. It's a lot easier to give 40 grand than make 40,000 calls. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, man. I do think it's a bigger ask to ask someone to call for you. That does feel like a way bigger ask than just to give money. Like I was talking with Carden before, it's almost like people will like pay you money to not have a little bit camera difficulties right there, guys.
We're doing it. Right here, brother.
You could have just passed it to me and I would have just plugged it in.
Okay.
But
we got a super chat from Max.
It's on your phone.
Iquihua. I probably totally butchered that. He just said goal.
Oh yeah, Max. Wait, I think this guy super chatted us before, and he always has super killer gifs in there, or gifs in there. I want to see how that guy does it. I'm boomering out a little bit right now, but I'm a little bit jelly.
I think they call them stickers on YouTube.
All right, cool. Max, thanks a lot, my man. Thanks a lot. You know what, Max? If you haven't gotten a hat yet, brother, last show we had this deal where if you super chatted us $20 or more, we'd give you a hat. We'll extend that to this one. If you can email us, my man, your address, and it's in the United States of America, then we're going to send you out a hat, my man.
Wait, someone said the live stream ended?
No, the live stream didn't end.
2 comments said live stream is over.
No, it's not.
I don't think so either, but I'm just...
No, the Yang live stream is over. And that is
I was like,
okay.
I'm confused.
I will agree. As I was searching for the Andrew Yang live stream, I could not find it. So it is indeed over. Well, hey, next time it happens, we'll have the, let's see it. We'll do a little air test for you guys if we do have the technology in the future to...
Hey, wait. We're getting one of these. Oh, so Karyoshi1 is saying, Carden said, Jeff. My man, it is a GIF.
Look at that. Yeah, see, look. I don't know if it'd play the sound, but yeah, look at that, guys. See, we got the phone tech right there.
Yeah, boom shakalaka.
I have no idea if it'd play any sound though. We'll have to check that another day.
So now we can Instagram that in, brother.
Yeah, next time you guys gotta get on me. I'd be like, Yang's on Instagram, because that's happened a couple times where I have searched online and not been able to find him. But yeah, so if you guys do want to help Yang get to I will say 800,000 dials is insane. That is a lot of calls, man.
Well, also, the thing is, dude, okay, all of these other candidates are not struggling hitting that. Okay, they're not struggling hitting that. I think even Kamala had some really high dial counts from her volunteers. Obviously, not as many as I think Bernie has the highest amount of dial counts. But really, that's actually been something that the Yang campaign, when asked, the few times they've been asked, like, how can you help? Dials are huge in this game. The old school ways of doing politics now are actually becoming even more important. And regular person dials, not robo dials, regular person dials are second only to, I think, in-person contacts at this point. And one of the biggest things that Jessica Patterson, who's the head of the California GOP out here, noticed was that all of the purchased efforts failed. For the past, 3 or 4 election cycles, some campaigns that have thrown tons of money from the party into trying to save a candidate have ultimately failed against other contestants and other opponents who just simply had more volunteers that are willing to go out and knock doors. So I think it's really, really important, actually, that if you're an enthusiast of Yang, that you be willing to get on that phone and dial, more so than maybe even money. To be honest with you, dialing, I think if you only got $10 to give, 100 dials might actually be worth more to a campaign, regardless of what you think of their politics.
To that point, if you're somebody in California, New York, Texas, Florida, and you want to help Yang in Iowa, it's one way of doing it. It's calling Iowans from wherever you live. You know what I mean? Like, you don't necessarily have to fly to Iowa, because that's what they're talking about, dialing into Iowa here. You could dial in. But anyway.
Well, we got a bunch more super chats. Hit
before
it.
that, too, I want to give one shout out to Nate Johnson. He said, fun fact, got the PSP hat before the math hat. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate that.
Right.
It means a lot. Really appreciate it, man.
Rock on, so
Okay.
hit him.
Alex L says, I'm a loyal fan that deserves a hat from my sister. Also a fan.
Of course, I'll put
Super chat at $20.
Yes,
Rock
I will put
on.
into the chat for right now for you guys our email address. It's problemsolvepolitics@gmail.com. It's really easy, but I'll have it here so you guys can paste it as well.
Yeah, so make
just
sure.
send
By
your
the way,
address
you have to
there.
include your real name in there, or else the post office doesn't deliver to YouTube usernames. So actually,
You can put aliases.
yeah. Well, what I usually do is I'll put current resident or, but it's a lot easier, and we won't get like a rejection, because sometimes when I go to the post office, they look at me funny when it's like, clobber, like machete clobber 721. Like, what are you sending?
They don't know who Pivot Guy 401 is. They don't know him at the post office.
Yeah, they don't know who
you
Pivot
just
Guy
drop it off.
401 is.
Which, by the way, shout out Pivot Guy 401, $20 super chat with the "You Are Amazing" sticker. Thank you very much, man.
All right, awesome. Pivot Guy, hit us with your Addy. We're gonna hook you up.
Yeah, like I said, so once again,
Well,
guys,
we were talking
anyone,
about GIFs.
send us with Gmail.
The guy that invented the file format, it's not a GIF. He said, I always envisioned it being pronounced GIF, but everybody says GIF. So I don't know if it's a tomato thing
Well,
here.
yeah, I've heard this, right? We don't say giraffes. We say giraffes.
Oh, no. I get that the traditional
And
nomenclature.
the G, you know what? I'm so beyond. This is not one of those. Christian Solid said.
We don't say
yeah.
giraffes. We say giraffes, but we also don't say gird. We say gird.
Look, the shadow.
Like, I'm gonna gird my loins.
The shadow speaking. It's GIF.
See,
End of discussion.
Okay, we got some more super chats.
I call them GIFs.
Ah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. No, we got Christian Solid with the Randy Savage reference. By the way, shout out to Randy Savage. R.I.P. to the Macho Man Randy Savage. He's been dead 8 years now, I believe, going on 8 years. So
that's actually one of the
sad stuff.
one of the WWE references that I recognize, Cody.
Slim Jim, Randy Savage.
So read it.
Actually, at that time, I believe it'd be WCW Randy Savage, but he said, "Step into a Slim Jim." Oh yeah. So
no, you're doing it wrong. You're wrong. It's like snap into a Slim Jim.
That was. I can't
snap into a Slim Jim.
It's not quite Randy Savage. It's someone else though. It sounds like someone else. I can't place who it is. And there's another super chat.
Okay, another one is from GPaul3000. What are your thoughts on the new folks running for office who are pro-UBI?
Oh, we're trying to get them on the show.
Yeah. Oh my God, I keep forgetting. There's the gentleman Brian Kim. I think he's running out of Los Angeles.
Yeah, he's contacted us a couple times.
Yeah, somebody. If you're in the chat, I feel so bad. There's been a couple times they've reached out. At the same time, we've been trying to get interviews with a couple people, and it's like whenever we actually get together to make the interviews up, it falls apart. So I apologize for that. We are really awful at that. Getting me and Carden to sit in the same room for 2 hours on a Thursday night to do the live stream is like almost impossible when we get to set our own time. So it's difficult for us to set this stuff up. It's our fault. We are definitely working on it. But while Carden's looking something up, to get to what I think about UBI candidates running, I think it's kind of honestly like that's the legacy of Andrew Yang running, right? That is why Andrew Yang, win or lose, has made his impact and made his difference. If Andrew Yang didn't get to where he is now in his run for president, how many UBI candidates you really think you're going to see running for Senate and Congress? Like that wasn't a thing. I think we're going to see a mini movement regardless. Like if Andrew Yang somehow like bottoms out at like 2% and is never even talked about in the political sphere ever again, which I do not think will happen. Let's say hypothetically it does. We will still see UBI focused candidates running because of what he did. And that's kind of the legacy of Yang 2020. Like at this point, regardless, that's the legacy, is that UBI is a mainstream talking point, and we're going to keep seeing UBI focused candidates running because that's really, it's really something that I think is an idea that is taking hold as time goes on. And like I said, it being born in the kind of capitalist mindset, the idea of everyone's a business owner, every consumer's got more money, like that sense. Also having it marry really well to a perhaps better option than the traditional entitlement services we use is like, it's kind of like progressive in like the more literal sense of the word. It's like that is really moving forward, right? That's really saying, hey, we'll get the capitalists and what they want, and we'll try to find a way to, in process, have it please the people that are into big on the. Because I don't even say want to say capitalists or anti-entitlements. You know what I mean? Like this will satisfy the pro and anti-entitlements crowd while also helping everybody, perhaps. And that's, I don't know. I guess that's Andrew Yang's real legacy here is what we're going to see with the UBIs talked about as a policy position moving forward. Because without this campaign, it wouldn't be discussed at all very much, I don't think, just because it's a really radical idea and it would take something crazy like this Yang campaign to make it a reality, I guess.
Yeah, so I'll also answer G. Paul 3000. What are your thoughts on the new folks running for office who are pro-UBI? Some of them got crazy cool ideas like Zoltan Istvar that we mentioned before, okay? But also, Andrew Yang has a huge problem here in Los Angeles. Right below him, AQI says, seen my first Andrew Yang bumper sticker. I thought I saw my first Andrew Yang bumper sticker as well today until I realized, oh no, I've seen 3 of these around. I just sent you in Discord a link.
Yeah, I'm not talking
We have a local judge who's running in, I think it's for the California Supreme Court, whose name is Scott Andrew Yang, 2020. And he has the same blue and red, like except for the small Y. He looks almost exactly in all of his campaign literature, the exact same color scheme, the exact same everything as Andrew Yang. Now, obviously, he's kind of got the more distinguished salt and pepper, one generation older look to him.
It doesn't look like Andrew Yang.
No, yeah.
The
like
signs.
His person, his physical person doesn't look like Andrew Yang. But like his sign from far away, I was driving behind this minivan, and from far away I was like, Yang 2020. I was like, oh, sweet. I'm going to pull up next to these people. And if they're hardcore Yangers, like, do I got a math hat in my car? Do I got a PSP hat? Are they going to recognize my face? Like, I want to commune with these people on the highway. I was literally going to like wave at them, for being Yang supporters. And as soon as I get within like 10 feet of the car, because, we don't tailgate, I should say 10 yards. As soon as I get, in much closer proximity to the car, I notice, oh, Scott Andrew Yang for Judge 2020? What?
I wonder this, and I'm not trying to impugn the honor of the honorable Judge Yang. However, I wonder if the Andrew is a more recent development because I wonder if he normally would just go by Scott Yang and then he realized, hey, I might as well lean on the fact that my middle name and my last name are someone running for. Because I will admit, I'm on his website right now, and I got to pull it up here. I'll show you guys this. No flame to Mr. Scott Andrew Yang. However, all the signs say Scott Andrew Yang, which, by the way, you feel like on a sign, it's really actually paying per character. Biography just calls him Scott Yang here. You can just see Scott Yang, Scott. They don't really bring up the Andrew part of it very much. So I'll see if I can make this better size for you. They only really bring up the Andrew part of it on the sign, which, by the way, if we're talking about Andrew Yang and the lasting legacy of what Andrew Yang means, if there's already people trying to jump on the Andrew Yang name recognition for their own campaign signs, it really, because like I said, it's just, the Andrew part only shows up on the sign. Maybe they just said, maybe it tested better having more characters. I don't know. So again, I'm not trying to call the guy out, but anyway, anyone who lives in the Los Angeles area, do not be fooled. This is not an Andrew Yang sign. This is a Scott Yang sign. He's running for judge. He's not running for president. Do not be fooled by this.
Okay, another super chat from Theo.
Dow. I think it's Dow.
Dow.
Like the Dow de Jing.
Sorry, I'm totally butchering that.
It's all good.
Do you guys think Elon and Yang would sit down and do a interview together?
Ooh, you want to take this one? Or you want me to take it?
Well, I mean, like, I think the wood's a better way of asking it because should is yes.
Yeah.
Would. What I think Elon Musk has weird reasons why he can't do as many interviews because of government contracts and stuff. I could be incorrect on that, but I think there's a reason why Elon Musk, for the most part, doesn't do stuff like that. Because I would almost ask Andrew Yang's campaign.
Oh wait, you're right.
Why have you not done this already? How powerful is if you get Elon Musk for 2 hours and you record him for 30 minutes and you give him whatever he wants for the first, come in here, snacks, booze, whatever you like, sit down, talk to us 40 minutes, put that on the YouTube channel. Oh my God, I have millions of views. Andrew Yang sits down with Elon Musk.
Elon Musk
would have millions of views. But I wonder what that thing is. Like I said, I don't know if it's something because of the government contracts he has. He can't.
Well, no. It's not that he can't. Okay, because individuals who own businesses are allowed to endorse people, but only as individuals. And they have to do a pretty solid job of making sure that it doesn't seem like a company endorsement. And you're right, that does get a little bit muddy because SpaceX is now a defense contractor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? SpaceX has teamed up with, I can't remember if it's Boeing or Northrop Grumman or what the exact alliance is, but SpaceX, I do believe, actually is a defense contractor on some level. I'd really like the chat to fact check that in real time for me, because that does make it interesting and muddy. But I remember what we said a week ago. We said, dude, why are all these celebrities talking more? Because it's not like you're a conservative in Hollywood who secretly likes Trump and wants to go up and shake his hand like Vince Vaughn did, and they get lambasted online for it, okay? This is a Democrat who's got a really cool idea of giving everybody $1,000 a month. Like, there is absolutely no downside to publicly endorsing this guy.
But there's people already on record having publicly endorsed Yang.
Yeah, but the only two people that I feel have put their money and their time where their mouth is Glover and Chappelle.
Well, recently it's been announced, confirmed. It hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. John Leguizamo, actor, will be hosting a rally for Andrew Yang, I think, in like a week. So there is more people, but it's just
That's how I actually pronounce the last name, is Leguizamo.
Oh, I didn't know it was
it's Juan Leguizamo.
Oh, I thought
it's a Basque name from the Iberian Peninsula of Spain.
Interesting. I didn't know it was Spanish. I thought it was Italian for some reason.
no,
Anyway,
it's Leguizamo.
What was I going to say about that? I was just going to say there is that going on, but I do agree. I would love to see, as you pointed out, something like Elon Musk sitting down with Andrew Yang for 20 minutes on YouTube. I think that would be awesome.
We only got 8 minutes left.
We have a couple super chats. First one is from Rock Lee. He says, "Who drops out first, Warren, Pete, or Yang?" I say Pete.
Oh yeah, Pete.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Warren, Pete, or Yang? Okay, I think Yang can outlast Pete.
Definitely Pete.
Pete's got a bigger war chest, so if something were to happen that was mission critical to Yang, I think technically Pete could last longer. Also, he seems far less practical and more like he'd hold on to a dying horse longer.
He does have less to lose, but he also has less to fall back on. You know what I mean? Like, Elizabeth Warren, if she can like look at this thing and go like, man, I could drop out, probably still angle for VP regardless of who wins, and fall back on my Senate seat. Whereas Pete Buttigieg, you just start thinking at a certain point, like, if I ride this too late and then drop out, I'm just a nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to be he might want to preserve his ego, but there's also the inverse, right? He's got nothing to lose. So why wouldn't Pete just run this to the end? Because that's why I think Andrew Yang probably won't drop out. He'll probably give a concession speech. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he will drop out, because drop out for what? It's like the drop out to, like, there's no reason for him to drop out. He's going to just keep running, but I also think Pete Buttigieg is going to be, I think Pete's push ended a little bit too soon, and when we get to the ballot boxes, he's really going to pull him back down to earth.
So we got two really deep super chats here. One, Alex P says Cardin is Mario and Cody is Luigi. All right, there's a pecking order. And then the other interesting question is a follow-up a statement that Elon Musk should take a Cybertruck and deck it out with Yang 2020, like decals or maybe engravings or some kind of like super sick Yang it out. I mean, you'd have to figure out what the emoluments clause of that endorsement might be.
You know what he should do? He should, remember when he sent a Tesla to the moon or whatever into space? He should send, that would be just a publicity stunt. You send a Yang wrapped Tesla to the moon or whatever. But hey, I mean, but here's the thing also. I think Elon Musk he's still a person. He's probably, I like Andrew Yang, I support him, but I'm not gonna pick up my assistant, clear off the next 7 months. You know what I mean? Like, he's still got to go about his business. He's still, like, he has some military contracts. But that being said, it's such a missed opportunity to not have Andrew Yang. Like, why isn't he gone on Norm Macdonald's show yet? Why is he not, like, just...
Yes, there's all these missed opportunities.
Face, you know what I mean? I don't get it.
Dude, Whoopi is talking about him left and right. Meghan McCain is talking about him left and right.
Why isn't Whoopi on a YouTube video for Andrew Yang?
Yeah, why isn't he on Prager University with frickin' Meghan McCain? You know what I'm saying? Well, doing a 15-minute podcast that's super popular on the right, then going out and then doing a cool H3H3 podcast with Whoopi. You're not going to tell me that the H3H3 folks wouldn't say yes to having Whoopi Goldberg in their studio.
What I'm saying is, why?
I wouldn't want to be by Whoopi.
Oh, Whoopi's great.
No, but why isn't Andrew? Why isn't Andrew? Like, why doesn't he do what Bernie's doing this a lot? And I think he should borrow this from Bernie. It's a great idea. Bernie will grab somebody like I think Killer Mike's his name. He's a popular rapper. I am really like I don't know a lot about any music recorded recently. I'm really dumb in that sense. Anyway, though, he's probably people know about him. I think I've like seen him before, but he's like done little like he'll sit down and talk with Bernie for 10 minutes. They clip it up. They put it in YouTube ads. They put it on Twitter ads. They do little short 90-second versions of Twitter videos, and so you get somebody for 50 minutes and you have content of you and your candidate. Like he did it with it was Cardi B, right? I think it was Cardi B.
Yeah. He did a sit down. Bernie did a sit down with Cardi
like
B.
Stuff like that. Like Andrew Yang really can't get Donald Glover to sit down with him in front of a camera for 9 minutes. He really can't do that. Like the Yang campaign really can't get like any of these people to just sit down across from Yang in a room for 10 minutes one day with the camera, record it, and boom, you got ads. Like I wonder what's going on. I don't know if it's a logistics thing. I don't really know if it's just a not how they're structured to have it done thing, but like feels like missed opportunities when you have this. I mean, like, I'm not saying Donald Glover has to write a new Yang rap song and have it go to top the charts. It doesn't have to do that, but like, just like maybe talk with him on camera for a minute or two, like with actual audio, not like just like not calling him out in particular, but it's just interesting why the Yang campaign. Maybe they are pushing for this, and for whatever reason, these people are just saying, "Look, it's not in my schedule, it's not working, and it's just unfortunate." But I really feel like the Yang campaign is missing out a little bit here. I think they could get a little bit more, and this is more just kind of like social cred stuff. It's less of like the tangibles, who knows what it'll be, but it's kind of like a nice little social cred edition of like you can see.
All right, so we got 5 more minutes left. Make sure if you got any super chat questions, you hit them now. We got 5 minutes left.
Here's a super chat we missed from Max Elliott. He says, how will UBI make it through Congress when Yang wins?
Well, I think
that's the big question.
But I think, as we've been talking about earlier, I think if Yang wins, we will see a general movement towards you. Like it's one of those things where it's like you have to understand, like it isn't the same thing as saying if Yang wins, the same thing as saying like if Trump wins the election, or even if like Biden wins. Like if Yang wins, it will be a dramatic political shift in this country. It'll be a gigantic political moment for Andrew Yang to go from basically nobody to president of the United States, where in order for that to be possible, UBI is going to have to become a nationally discussed topic people are very on board with. Like, Andrew Yang doesn't rise from nowhere to prominence to, against the odds, win the DNC nomination, and then go up against the incumbent Donald Trump and then beat him and not have UBI support amongst, like as he said, if I win, UBI's got to be popular. There's no world where Andrew Yang gets elected and UBI is unpopular. So by that reason alone, he'd be able to get it through. We've seen it happen. It was kind of like it would probably, and I get that the actual nuts and bolts of this are not the same. I understand. But in spirit would be similar to what we saw in 2008 with Obamacare, right? Yeah. Obama was such a big political movement. He brought with him a lot, and he was able to use that cachet immediately in the House and in the Senate to get Obamacare through. Now, it was the big, it's obviously the same thing with Yang. If he gets UBI through, it'll be the biggest thing he does this entire campaign. If that gets done year one and he's there for 8 years, guess what? Nothing he does for the last 7 will be bigger than getting UBI passed in America. But I think that's how it would. So many things have to go right for him to win. The odds of all those things going right, him winning and then not being able to get UBI through, that would be a fascinating story in its own self. I just think it would require flipping the public consensus on UBI so drastically to make it possible.
Okay, so I got, actually hit the super chats, then I'm going to respond to a couple of questions and we got to go.
Okay, Cake Batter said, great show. Thank you, I try.
All right, $5 super chat, thanks. And then also there's been some interesting arguments here. Acorn Jones actually said it would never pass with the Republicans. The idea of handouts is something they're fundamentally against. Acorn Jones, man, you got to read some history books on UBI and listen to some Andrew Yang talks on the Freedom Dividend. It actually already passed through a Republican Senate once. It was approved by and actually written about
not just a Republican, like Richard Nixon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was Richard Nixon.
It was a pretty solid, serious dude here.
Yeah, it was Richard Nixon that was saying yes to this. It passed the House of Representatives once as the Family Assistance Plan, and then it passed a different Senate because it wasn't ratified. It was in another term that it passed. In the Senate, it was approved by Richard Nixon before he was actually interestingly convinced not to do it by somebody who thought that it had failed in England. One of our first videos was a history lesson on universal basic income. And Richard Nixon was convinced that it would fail by these people. And I'll tell you this right now, Scott Santens and I both noticed when we interviewed Scott Santens, who's one of the principal recipients of UBI before Andrew Yang even had the UBI program, and probably one of the bigger authorities on it, people would say, at least in the blogosphere right now.
Yeah, well, what he does is really interesting. Is he's a UBI advocate, and he uses his Patreon account to have essentially his own little UBI pilot experiment on himself. It's really interesting because it's
he himself said it's easier to. He himself said it's easier to convince Republicans about the fiscal responsibilities and benefits of UBI than it is some of the burners, because some of the burners just want the revolution. That's all they want.
They want to win.
Yeah, they want to win and they want the revolution.
I'd say that's across. It's not unique to burners. There's a lot of people out there who do. They want to win. You'll explain to them how UBI will help a lot of people, and they'll go, yeah, but that's not my plan, so I don't win. And it's like, I guess, man, but geez, you know what? Silly me. I just thought it was about helping people. And there's a lot of people, there's like,
we got to hit some of these last super chats.
Okay, we have 3 super chats, and then we got to go because I got to go pick up my kids. So Michael Foster says, should Yang play a few online matches of StarCraft 2 on stream?
Not StarCraft 2, but Yang should play. I almost said Yang should play League of Legends on stream. He shouldn't, though. Yang should play either Dota 2, or I think if he played Smash, that would Smash or Fortnite would probably break the internet. But if a presidential candidate played Smash on stream, that would be pretty viral, pretty big.
Okay.
Okay, next super chat is from Danielle Henderson. As a black person, I wonder whether Dave Chappelle's endorsement will improve Yang's black voter numbers. What do you guys think?
Well, obviously, any celebrity endorsement from any demographic is generally going to help. Okay, I mean, if you have Mitt Romney endorsing you, you're probably going to get a lot more Mormons to look at it. Kindly.
I don't like Mitt Romney.
If you get, sure.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't think
you're right. Maybe we should say before he went totally Pierre Delecto.
No, but I just mean in general. Like,
but in general, yes.
No, in general, the inverse. I don't think it really works that way. I don't think people will be like.
Yeah, people are less sycophantic nowadays. I think it was much bigger in the 60s and 70s. But that actually has to do with Ben G's next super chat. Let's answer both these simultaneously.
Okay. Ben G said, I have to ask the tough question, guys. How do we get black Americans on board? And what's hurting us?
Cody, what was the title of that really, really good video that we had that was based upon the African-American vote, where we had the guy from St. Louis call in?
Oh, the one who encouraged him to go to the churches more? And
yeah.
Which, by the way, he did in Iowa. Remember the video came out?
Yeah, finally. He finally took our advice.
He is doing
Andrew Yang does well. Okay, one of my favorite videos that we had was there was an African-American brother. Yeah, it was a guy. Okay. So there was a guy that called him from Missouri, and he says, look, as an African American, I don't see Andrew Yang here, or what can he do? I can't remember the exact phrase, so I don't want to put words into his mouth.
But he's basically encouraging Andrew Yang to go to the churches in general, just more black communities. By the way,
yeah, because he says like UBI is the biggest thing I could see helping my community, my brothers and sisters out there, and so what can we do? And then I laid out what I saw as a pretty solid game plan. And one of the things that I pointed out was, hey, look, dude, I mean, you can just follow the trail of Martin Luther King, and half those churches are still there. Half those communities still suck. Half those communities are still recovering. And you can give a real barn burner about how universal basic income and the freedom dividend is going to improve people's lives. And let me tell you, you will make inroads. Or you could just try and chase down Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and get their endorsement and spend millions of dollars and feed into the unholy media industrial complex and the DNC's alliance. You know what I'm saying? You can try doing that, or you can actually just go to the people and convince the people, the African-American people themselves, that UBI is going to be good for them. And I actually think that's going to be a better choice.
Well, this is one thing I think, and this is an interesting story I've been following a bit. Yang probably could take a page or two from apparently Tom Steyer's book, and you know what Tom Steyer's been doing is kind of what you were talking about. He's just like legitimately been, and it's kind of one of those things. It's always like, it's kind of weird to say, but it's funny how much ground you could probably make in any demographic and community by just legitimately making an effort to go out there and speak with them on a daily basis, by like legitimately making it a big deal. So I think it's Andrew Yang, simple, not as simple as, but that's the start, and I think he's done that a little bit, but. Some people said he was pandering in the video of him dancing around in the church, but you can argue that either way. But I think ultimately with any demographic, any group, ultimately it just starts with you saying, I'm going to make a concerted effort to actually connect with this group of people, not pander to them. Like I don't think like I'm not gonna sit here and say what the blueprint is because I don't like. Quite frankly, I have no idea. I'm not a member of the black community. I don't know, but I can tell you this. I don't think telling people you carry hot sauce around in your purse is the way you do it. I think you find a way to actually connect with people on an emotional, real human being level. And I think Andrew Yang is set up to do that. But yes, I do agree. I think he might need to make a more, I don't want to say concerted effort even more, but just you have to kind of really do it. You have to actually go to the places, like I said, the churches, the community centers, speak with the people and mean it. And Yang can do it. It's a matter of how much time he will have to do it, right? But
yeah,
I do agree. I think he can do better at it.
Okay, last super chat from Mrs. Junis Ziad. No comment, just a super chat. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you very much.
Please clap. No, all right. Anyway, thank you everyone for your super chats. Thank you everybody for all your comments. This has been an absolute blast. You guys, we might hang out in the chat here for a little bit longer as soon as the actual video part of this has ended. But as always, it is an absolute pleasure hanging out with you guys, talking all things Yang, talking all things election 2020. Remember, you got to follow us on Twitter at PSP Radio 1. Follow us on Instagram at Problem Solver Politics. If you want to pick up a hat and the super chats are over with, make sure that you go to problemsolverpolitics.com. You can pick up one there. If you guys have super chatted us at $20 or more, make sure that you email us with your address and your real name so we can send you these in their cool, handy dandy little boxes. We get those out within the week of you super chatting us. Make sure also that if you'd like to join our channel, you join our channel because we're going to have a really cool members-only call-in live stream once a month. That's actually going to be pretty sick. And if we can do it more than once a month, great. You know what I'm saying? We'll see if we can't do that, but we're going to start out with once a month. Anyway, it's been awesome. It's been real, and it's been real fun. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.